Hi, I'm Ranjith. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the third episode of Biopharma Leader Stories. This year, we are bringing Biopharma Conclave back to Mumbai in a totally new avatar with a new outlook and new set of tracks. Before the commencement of the event, we have planned to get leaders of and their experience closer to you. These interviews will have insights, advices, and opinions that have been gained through years in the industry by them. Today, I'm honored and privileged to have with me a very special, renowned guest today, Dr. Akhilesh Sharma, who is MD in clinical pharmacology with further training in clinical research and global pharmacovigilance at Berkeley Extension, California State University in the US, and Luton Medical Center in the UK, and is a fellow of Royal Liverpool Hospital Society in the UK. He has around 30 years of worldwide experience in the areas of clinical research, medical affairs, regulatory, pharmacovigilance, translation medicine, biomarkers, clinical pharmacology across various multinational pharmaceutical companies based in the US and in India. He is currently the president and chief medical officer of Alkem Laboratories Ltd. He also co-founded biomarker research organization GeneXY in Philadelphia, USA, jointly with Vista Institute, Pennsylvania University campus. He has, to his credit, more than 54 scientific and research publications, 49 patents, and holds membership of International Pharmaceutical Society, American Academy of Dermatology, American Diabetes Association, European Society of Respiratory Medicine. Without taking much of the time, let me welcome Dr. Akhilesh Sharma.
Thank you, Ranjit, for having me here. And it's a great honor and privilege to be a part of the Biopharma Scientific Advisory to begin with. And thanks for giving that chance so that we could provide some enriching experiences on how we could make the biopharma more enriching and really a deep dive in terms of the scientific aspects. And I really hold you and the Informa Markets in very high regards to the great work you all have been doing. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So my very first question to you, Dr. Akhilesh, is what have been your core focus over the last few years, especially since the pandemic?
Well, that's been an exciting journey, especially the last 2 years have been almost like packed 20 years into 2 years, I would say. Even if we say the world was on a little other side, going through the other spot, but we could see a lot of bright spot during that time. And as I could first of all say that the most important thing and the foremost was to ensure business continuity as we all need to do. So ensuring that we continue to do what we have been doing and maybe innovate more better ways like how we could establish the virtual connects, the continuous meaningful engagements, and at the same time ensure that there is a continuous learning opportunity for both the internal and the external stakeholders. So when I say a meaningful engagement through these virtual connects and these opportunities, it's more about despite not being in person, the kind of challenges we always face is how do we really ensure that the person on the other side is thrilled, continues to be engaged, at the same time delivers the best out of the person what is expected. So creating sort of those deep dive technology platforms, at the same time very cutting edge scientific topics and some very exciting subjects, and winding them into the existing the research part or the other development part which we have been doing, so that enabled to ensure that everybody stayed on the same page, not only stayed on the same page but made better use of the time and the resource we had. At the same time, I would say that was the time we made the best use of doing collaborations, and that's something little bit on the other side because when we talk of collaborations, we always say that yes, you need to be in person, you need to be networking, you need to be on the ground, you need to be on the site. Yes, that is critical. So after having been at the site on the previous some of the collaborating partners which we have been talking to, in fact, this 2 years provided a real good solid ground for collaborating on some of the novel targets where we actually got into those collaborations, signed deals, and it's there in the news. So these were some of the important things. Then enhancing modalities, creating those modalities as fast forward development for innovative drug developments, and then bringing in quickly modalities on ensuring that there is a continuity in the clinical trials, ensuring that the patients are maintained in the clinical trials, then newer business opportunities for the organization. In fact, this provided a lot of room and a place for thought to look at both inside out and outside in as well, in terms of what kind of newer opportunities we could bring in for the organization, and then explore and tap into those opportunities on the novel targets on the biotech front as well. And then as I said, the networking part was something which we wanted that it continued, and that was only feasible if the partner on the other side saw a win-win approach, so that we could have a long-term partnership and continue to nurture this long-term relationship, and that's how they developed a very strong trust. So these 2 years really were something very, very action-packed, and I would say they were very much focused and result-oriented.
Thank you. I mean, you did touch upon innovation and some bit of collaboration. So my questions, even down the line, would be based on that. So the next question to you, Dr. Akhilesh, is where do you see the innovation moving in the biological space? A little more in depth.
Well, I would say a lot has changed over the past few years. In fact, over the past 3 years and in the last 2 years, the deliverables have changed significantly. Uh, we have seen a lot of change in the way the target developments have happened. A lot of things have moved to the cell and gene therapy, like to the newer modalities of cell therapies beyond just the activated T or the dendritic cells, which one used to talk about. There are lots of new areas on the cell therapy which are being explored. Then in gene therapy, like techniques beyond CRISPR, which are more precision driven, are being developed. They are being explored, and they have evolved to be much better as well. So it's been in the past couple of years the way this novel innovations have really evolved. The new platforms for optimizing cell therapeutics, like as I was saying, the CRISPR was the very typical platform earlier for the gene therapy. So there are some new platforms, and then people are moving to some newer ways of doing the biotech work. Like a lot of thing is happening on the plasmid space as well as we speak, and it's really come up the curve. Then in the novel targets, if we see the kind of novel targets which are being developed are more to address the actual root cause of the disease. It's not just acting on the the symptoms. Like earlier it was like only the what part of it, but now it's addressing the why part of it. Like what has been the issue is much more beyond than why is this caused. So going to that granular level, say for example, earlier people used to talk about Alzheimer's related to the protein misfolding. People used to talk of amyloids and tau and everything, which still is there, and we have seen some of the research and the drug approvals, but then somehow unfortunately it flunked in the market because it was not really addressing the clinical part of it. But when we go to a deeper why part of it, and that's where the solution comes, that really it addresses the actual clinical outcome. Like people are talking now in Alzheimer's, for example, or neurodegenerative disorders, for example, a much more earlier step than talking of the protein misfolding. Like they're talking about say the involvement of the immune based mechanisms which would eventually result into a protein based misfolding, or what is it that there is a genomic alteration which would result into those protein misfolding. So the why part has moved the needle much ahead and more deeper and granular, I would say. And that's something in the past 2 to 3 years the world has really gone through a significant change. There's a lot of use of data analytics and artificial intelligence. So much of tons of data is there, but there is a very good funneling of the data which happens, and finally there are so good algorithms which have really helped us to go to some of these deep down the issues which are related to the disease pathologies.
Right now, coming to collaborations. So, what newer relevancies are getting established on collaborations or partnership models when you want to put these pieces of innovation across and on the globe?
Well, on the collaborations, I would say I'm seeing a lot of collaborations happening and increasing between the big pharmas and the academias. And though in India, still we have to come up on the curve in terms of when we talk about the academia and the industry collaboration, and even between the industry to industry collaboration. What I'm seeing globally is, even between India and I would talk specifically for the organization where I am currently is, uh, and the model has really worked is like working with some of the best of the academias, some of the best of the medical universities or the research universities, say in the US or Europe, and then using a model on co-developing or co-creating, which has really helped to create that sort of a trust in infuse a lot of that confidence into that partnership, so that they are very much looking forward to that. Here is organization which would take it, handhold it, and finally deliver it to the end, not just take it and then leave it in between if any other priorities change. So that kind of a level of trust and confidence has really helped, and that's the way one could co-create and co-develop. So having those co-development models together is something which is really moving up on the lobe, putting these pieces together, then leveraging strengths of each other. When we are talking about co-development is like somebody has say the academia has a very strong preclinical strengths or some of the in vitro strengths or the other strengths, and then on the other side biotech would have strengths on optimizing the targets further, or optimizing the development drug much more better, and scale ups and commercializations, kind of models could be created much better. So that sort of connects of the dots have helped to leverage these strengths together and make the best out of those synergies. So that's how I have seen that these kind of co-creating or co-development models have really helped a lot in these, like taking away these targets from an early stage through a whole cost efficiency process, which has emerged out. And especially when we talk of, say, a geography like India, it really provides a lot of cost efficiency output. At the same time, it also provides a level playing field of high quality output at the same time. It's not that we are just letting that go away. It's the basic denominator remains there as such. So these kind of models which have those risk sharing models on collaborations, and at the same time, because of the kind of trust and the sort of that confidence, and that they get embedded into each other, it it becomes so sort that it's not just a financially front loaded with a high upfront investment. So it's like they're looking forward that here is a target which has come out of so much of innovation passion from that particular academia, and here is a partner which would ensure that it would see the light of the day. So that's how I'm seeing a lot of this co-creating models happening globally across.
Okay. You mentioned collaborations is more prevalent in the West and not so much in India, but India is slowly getting there. The thing that you mentioned is that you work hand in hand with the research organization and universities, academia per se. From the other interviews that I've had and interacting with the experts like yourself, I've realized that there is a certain gap between the academia and industry in India. Do you know why it is there and what can be done to bridge that gap?
So first of all, the academia in India um is doing some real good work, uh, but however, that is not known to the industry. So that connect is missing. Is there a platform where this could be possible? Like one of the platform could be the biopharma itself, where it could bring these together to understand what kind of a cutting edge research is happening at the academia. Now, other thing is in the academia, when the work is happening, I see that there is a little lack of a practical industry oriented focus at times. Like for example, one may do a very good innovation, a novel target, but then putting it into a perspective of a patent, or really filing a good strong patent and then moving on from there, optimizing it further, those pieces are missing at times. So if the industry and the academia, they come together and they understand that, is it really a cutting edge work with an academia is doing, and the industry is ready to tie up onto those models. And at the same time, it is important that some of these academias should develop very lean and thin models in the way they should collaborate together instead of getting into too big jargons of paperworks and documentations and all those. It should cut those bureaucracies everywhere, and get into a very thin working model and ensure that what they have discovered, what they have really evolved, gets into the evaluation stage quickly so as to decide whether that novel innovation is going to work or it would not work, really come to that conclusion very fast. So that pieces interlinking together is something we need to provide a more uh, a fertile ground for these two to come together and really evolve further.
Great. I mean, that's great piece of message, and hope our viewers, especially from the academic area, will take this piece of advice. My next question to you, Dr. Akhilesh, is what newer models have emerged in the clinical trials, and how have they disrupted?
Well, it's something, I would say phenomenal that a drug, a monoclonal antibody, or a vaccine uh, could be discovered and brought to the patients in less than a year's time after going through all the clinical trials. I have not heard this all my life and have not read any sort of those learnings or any of those earlier science stories. It may seem to be as a scientific fiction at this point, but it's a reality. And it's like the necessity is the mother of all innovations, and I think that's how the pandemic has taught us that how important it is to innovate and keep innovating rather than sticking to your very typical standard just way of doing. We keep talking of innovation, but do we really practice it? Do we really take some risks when it is required to move through those pieces very fast through, or are we really breathing in and breathing out so slow that okay, we go through it in a very proper, in a very slow manner? Of course we have to go in a very proper manner, but doesn't mean that it has to be slow every time. We have to be proper, we have to be guarded, but there can be a speed to it. So I think innovative clinical designs, we have seen the way people used to talk of adaptive designs, but they were not being implemented and executed. We are seeing them on the ground, the way the executions have happened, the fast track clinical operations and inbuilt scope of interim assessments, which really help to provide early data, early results, and a continuous data assessment process. So there are so many pieces which were working together and functioning together to ensure that this comes on time because humanity was at stake, and I think that's a fabulous message. We should continue to use that message. Like operationally, I have never seen studies being supported by so many large referral pools. I have seen rather clinical trials being restricted to institutes, and those institutes may be just supporting with the patients who are coming there. But then the way the referral pools were feeding into the institutes, and then and more number of patients. Look at the data coming out of those lakhs of patients data. Can we imagine 25,000 patients, 50,000 patients data coming out so fast in such a short period of time? And this was enabled by very strong virtual conduct of these studies, then strong electronic ways of doing clinical trial management system, or you call it as the data management systems. And in fact, this is the first time I have even seen, and I've been talking about this earlier, is the electronic source data verifications, which people really fear about doing any electronic source data verification because of patient, data being disclosed. But then this really saw complete disruption in the way these electronic tools were put to the best use. Then patient centricity, direct to patient reach, and so many things have evolved, which we have been talking. And but this is the time which made it to really execute, to bring it to reality. A very logistics disruption which happened, what you call as just in time clinical trials, like ensuring round the clock IMP. If you're moving from phase 1 to phase 3, the way the scale up of the IMP has to happen, are you ready with that? Are you ready with the randomization block? Are you ready with the codings, etc., labeling? Are you ready so that when your first patient comes, you have a drug ready to be dosed at that site? And everything was absolutely perfectly going on so fine. So this really has shown that the learnings which have come in this last 18 to 12 months, what we have learned, the globe has learned, and we should continue to imbibe them, use them, and not just leave it at that particular level, because human being is something where we de-learn things very fast. I think we should de-learn things which are not so good, but here are things which we should continuously build them up further, and we should implement them in our other clinical trials as well. So it's been a fantastic thing in the last 1 to 2 years, what I've seen, the way the clinical trials have happened.
Great. Last question, last but not the least, would like your thoughts on how Biopharma Conclave 2022 can be productive to all, as well as the next level networking place.
Yeah, as I said, I think biopharma really provides an excellent ground for meeting and interacting through its diverse attendee list, where I see people from various specialties within the biopharmaceuticals, with very key focused areas of their expertise. They come, network, and they share their enriching experiences. They explore, and I think this is a platform where they explore to co-create, and they explore even business opportunities. And I keep using the word co-create because that's something which really helps to bring in that win-win level of sort of an excitement in both the partners together. And I'm seeing that at at the biopharma, when you see people right from the unicorns to the academias to the startups to the health farmers to the farmers to to the biotech industries, and with the who's who of all these being around, it really helps to bring in a lot of this as a fertile ground, an opportunity where it brings in a lot of synergies together, and it will enhance certainly a lot of research work and the business opportunities in this research work as well. A lot of practical on ground experience supported with real life case studies, what I have seen in your previous conferences, really they provide a lot of enriching and a significant learning experience, and that's very important. Not just leaving it as a paper based study or just some PowerPoint presentations. So this is what I say, that engagement of the minds together is something which biopharma provides, that very strong engagement of the various minds together, and really that it creates a lot of opportunities for each of the person who is participating. As I said, it can become a very strong ground where the academia and the industry is meeting together, where a lot of exchanges would happen, and that's what I see a significant advantage. So I would really wish all the very best with the continued success for the Biopharma 22, to provide a rich scientific feast, yet a practical and application based outcome, to all the people who are to be part of it. So I see that as a great platform where a lot of things you could share, exchange. It's said that if I have to read, I can read endlessly, like I read a book, I can read it for days together. But then the same thing, if I'm exchanging my thoughts and I'm discussing with someone, and we are debating out, brainstorming, the same thing, that rich experience of that half an hour or 1 hour, you would gain what the person would have gained for the last 20 years in his or her life. So that's what I see biopharma providing, that sort of a platform.
And thank you so much for your kind words, and your insights are well taken. So with that, we come to end of this interview. Dr. Akhilesh Sharma, thank you so much for your insights, and this was very useful to our viewers. We have started, with this series from February onwards, and every month a video interview with notable people from biopharma industry will be conducted until September. So to all our viewers, if you have missed out on any other earlier editions of the interview, you can find them on our official channel. Thank you very much for joining us, Dr. Akhilesh Sharma.
Thank you, and wish you all the very best.